Virgo. Uh, Sit down for this one. I'm Anna from your channel, Virgo, and I need you to understand before we go a single step further that what came through today is not comfortable. It is not the warm, affirming energy of something arriving to celebrate you. Uh, it is something more complex than that, more shadowed, the kind of reading that requires me to choose between telling you what feels good and telling you what feels true. And I will always choose true, even when true is harder to sit with. Um, so if you are watching this in passing, half distracted, one eye somewhere else, I am asking you to stop, to be here. Because what is forming in your life right now is large enough that moving through it without awareness could cost you something. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't. And if something in the pit of your stomach is already responding, subscribe, because this is exactly the kind of depth we go to at Virgo. Let's walk into the shadow of this together. Not everything that arrives as gift announces itself as one. Some of the most significant things to ever enter a life come wearing the clothing of disruption, of inconvenience, of the thing that arrives at the wrong time, in the wrong form, through the wrong door, and asks you to accommodate it before you have had any chance to understand what it actually is. Before you have had any chance to discern whether what stands on your threshold is something to welcome or something to be wary of. This is the terrain you are entering. Okay. Something large is moving toward the surface of your life, not gradually, not in the slow, incremental way of seasons changing, more like the way pressure moves, building in the deep, invisible places, accumulating in the strata beneath the ordinary day to day until it reaches a point where the surface can no longer hold the shape it has been holding, where something has to give, where the landscape, whether it is ready or not, whether you are ready or not, begins to rearrange itself. The word careful in this context does not mean afraid. Fear and discernment are not the same animal, though they often arrive in the same body and get confused for each other. OooH, careful means awake, means present, means willing to see what is actually happening rather than what is most comfortable to believe is happening. It means refusing the very human temptation in moments of significant change to look away from the parts that are difficult and focus only on the parts that are easy. The easy and the difficult are arriving together. That is the shape of this. That is what makes it require the particular quality of attention that most moments in an ordinary life do not ask for. There is a phenomenon in nature that has no elegant name, but that anyone who has spent time near deep water recognizes instinctively. Before something large moves beneath the surface, before the displacement of something enormous disturbs, the world above the water goes still, not the ordinary stillness of calm weather, a different kind, oppressed stillness, the kind that feels less like absence of movement and more like held breath, like the water itself is bracing. You may have felt something like that recently. A strange quiet in a part of your life that is usually in motion, a lull that does not feel restful, that feels instead like the suspension of something, like a clock that has stopped not because the battery died, but because something is about to happen that the mechanism of ordinary time is not calibrated to contain, an eeriness in the familiar. The particular discomfort of a world that looks the same but feels in its depths like it is no longer operating by the same rules it was operating by last week. That stillness is the water over the thing that is moving below. And the thing moving below the displacement heading toward your surface is significant enough that the water over it has gone quiet in anticipation of its arrival. The question is not whether it arrives, it is already in motion. The question is what you do with the stillness before it does, how you use the pressed quiet of this particular stretch of time. Whether you spend it distracted by the ordinary surface of things, or whether you go very still yourself inward, attentive, reading the water for information that is available now and may not be available later. Let's talk about what being careful actually requires in practical terms. Because it is one thing to say the word and another to inhabit it. Whew. The first requirement is this: stop letting urgency make your decisions. Something about what is approaching will carry a quality of pressure, of now, of a thing that seems to demand immediate response, immediate commitment, immediate yes or no before you have had the time to understand what exactly is being asked of you. This pressure is not always malicious. Sometimes it is simply the nature of large things, which carry their own gravitational force and create the sensation of being pulled toward them faster than feels comfortable. But urgency, when it is not yours, when it belongs to a situation or a person or a set of circumstances, rather than to your own genuine readiness, is worth examining before you answer it. The things in life that are truly right for you will wait the length of time it takes you to understand what they are. They may not wait forever, but they will wait long enough for you to find your footing, for you to move toward them from a place of actual choice rather than the momentum of being swept. If something arrives in your life in the coming stretch of time, demanding an answer before you are ready to give one, that demand is itself information, not proof of malice, but data worth noting, worth slowing down enough to feel the weight of. The second requirement of careful is harder to name and harder still to practice. It is the willingness to see someone clearly, even when seeing them clearly is inconvenient. Uh, there is a person, or there is the energy of a situation involving a person at the center of what is forming. And this person carries something that operates on two levels simultaneously. On the surface level, something that is warm, compelling, possibly exactly what you have been hoping to find, presented in a form that fits almost uncannily well against the shape of what you have been wanting. And beneath that surface, not necessarily something dark, not necessarily something designed to harm, but something that is not yet fully visible, something that is still in the shadow, still operating from a layer of itself that has not been offered for inspection, either because it is not yet ready to be seen or because showing it would change the nature of what is being built between you. This is not a reason to close. Closing is not carefulness. Closing is fear wearing carefulness as a disguise. What is required here is something more demanding than closing. It is the willingness to stay open and discerning simultaneously, to receive what is being offered while keeping the part of you that reads the subterranean layer, the part that knows things through the body before the mind has assembled an argument fully activated. Your body knows things. It always has. And in the months ahead, as what is forming becomes more visible and the choices it requires become more concrete, the data your body is carrying will be worth more than the most sophisticated analysis your mind can produce. Do not override it in favor of what makes rational sense. Do not silence it in favor of what you want to be true. Now let's look at the opportunity inside the caution. Because there is always an opportunity inside the caution that is the thing about significant events, even the shadowed ones. They carry both the risk and the reward in the same hand. What is arriving, this large, pressured, surface rearranging thing, is also, from a different angle, the thing you asked for, not in the form you imagined. It almost never arrives in the form you imagined. The imagination tends toward the clean version, the unambiguous version, the version that requires nothing difficult from you in order to receive it. Life tends toward the version that comes wrapped in complexity, that requires you to do the work of unwrapping, that places the best thing inside the most inconvenient packaging. But it is there, inside the disruption, inside the pressure, inside the thing that is going to require more of your presence and your discernment and your willingness to stay awake than most things in your recent life have required inside all of that. Something is hidden that has the quality of what you have been building toward. Something that, if navigated with the particular combination of openness and carefulness that this moment demands, has the potential to establish something in your life that was not there before. Not just materially, though the material dimension of this is real, but in the deeper sense of establishment, of something becoming permanently true about your life and about yourself that was previously only potentially true, of a door that once walked through does not close behind you, of a threshold that changes the category of what is possible rather than simply the contents of a single chapter. There is a shadow in this reading that I want to name without amplifying unnecessarily. Because there is a shadow, and pretending otherwise would be its own kind of carelessness. Someone in your orbit, someone already present, someone you may trust with a degree of comfort that this moment is quietly suggesting you examine, may not be operating with full transparency. Not necessarily with bad intent, but with an agenda that is not entirely visible, with needs and motivations that run parallel to the ones they have presented, with a version of themselves that they are showing you and a version that they are not. The gap between those two versions is where the carefulness lives. Not in suspicion. Suspicion is a blunt instrument that damages everything it touches, including the things that were real and trustworthy, but in the willingness to notice discrepancies, to pay attention when what someone says and what someone does are slightly out of alignment, to trust that noticing is not betrayal, that discernment is not unkindness, that you are allowed, that you are in fact obligated to yourself to see clearly, even when seeing clearly complicates something you would prefer to keep simple. Simple is not always available to people who are navigating something significant. Complexity is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that something is real. Here is the deeper current running beneath all of this. The thing that the caution and the opportunity and the shadow are all pointing toward. If you follow them far enough down, you are being asked to grow into a version of yourself that your current habits of perception are not quite equipped to inhabit. The size of what is arriving in love, in work, in the particular configuration of your life that is preparing to shift requires a Virgo who is more fully in possession of their own instincts than the Virgo who has been navigating the ordinary days up until now. More willing to trust what they sense without waiting for the kind of ironclad proof that the analytical mind requires before it will concede a point. More willing to say no to urgency, to convenience, to the version of things that is offered before the real version has revealed itself. More willing to inhabit the uncomfortable position of not yet knowing for as long as it takes the not yet knowing to become actual understanding. This is the growth the moment requires. Not more sophistication, not more analysis, more trust in the instrument of yourself. More willingness to operate from the deepest layer, the one that reads the water before the surface has changed, the one that knows the shape of something before the light is right to see it clearly. As you move through what is coming, and it is coming, the stillness of the water is its own announcement. Carry these things with you like stones in a pocket, not heavy, just present, just available when you reach for them. Slow down when urgency accelerates. The faster something presses, the more time it deserves before you answer it. See with both sets of eyes, the ones that look at the surface and the ones that read below it. Neither is more trustworthy than the other. Both are necessary. Let the shadow inform you without letting it rule you. Shadows exist because something is blocking the light. Find out what is blocking it before you decide what the shadow means. And hold this, especially the size of what is arriving is proportional to the size of what you are capable of receiving. The universe does not send large things to small lives. It sends them to lives that have done the expanding necessary to hold something of that magnitude. Your life has been doing that, expanding in the quiet, in the dark, in the long seasons when nothing visible was growing and everything real was. What comes now is the correspondence between your interior expansion and the world's willingness to reflect it back. That correspondence is not always comfortable, but it is always significant. Be careful, Virgo. Be awake. Be large enough to hold both the gift and the shadow it casts, because both are real. And both navigated with the full, unblinking, deeply honest attention you are capable of are yours to work with. The water is already moving. You already know what to do.